A group of top scientists and CIA doctors have been studying the negative health effects from paranormal and UFO experience and how they're similar to Havana syndrome and the effects from psychotronic weaponry. Yes, you heard me right. And before we dive into the documentation, let's hear from one of the scientists, Dr. Garry Nolan of Stanford.
You concluded that some of, if not all of what was happening at Skinwalker from what you've studied was state actors. So I don't know what is meant by state actors and how you came to that conclusion.
Right. So this all started, of course, with Kit. When we first were looking at these patients, that we got this basically a bucket of cases from the defense intelligence axis. Doctors didn't know what to do with people who were in distress. Nobody could figure out what it is that was going wrong with them. And so Kit at some point was called in on some of them. We actually, by around 2015, 2016, were calling it what we called at the time, or I should say Kit, interference syndrome. People were being interfered with. And here were the range of things that were happening to them. And so what, as a doctor, you do, you start to determine what the individual symptoms are. And those individual symptoms then are matched to definitions in what's the best way to do it is called the ICD codes. And then right around 2018 or so, the so-called Havana cases were coming up, which Havana, Cuba, specifically some of the diplomatic personnel were having these buzzing sounds, getting sick, headaches, etc. And that kind of went public. And then Kit got a hold of some of the case files related to some of these events, and realized that when he matched the ICD codes of the Havana syndrome, they matched or overlapped with a lot of our cases. After that, a science group, the so-called Jasons, which are a group of scientists who the government calls upon, they were brought in to basically do an assessment of this, and it became obvious that these cases were probably driven by some, I use the term state actor. Some people got bent out of shape because I used that term. Somebody who is an agent of, let's say, Russia or China or something like that, or a rogue element within our own government, funded by a government who gained access to, some of these technologies that could cause these things, all kinds of different approaches, acoustic attacks, electromagnetic attacks, microwave. Now, what's interesting is they said about 10 to 15% of the cases that the Jasons had looked at could not be explained under the rubric of Havana syndrome, and were as of yet of indeterminate causation.
In my previous videos, I've gone into some of the psychotronic weaponry that Nolan touches on here, and it's the main reason I brought out the halopulse units as a countermeasure. This group seems to be having a hell of a time trying to untangle what's being caused by human technology and what's being caused by truly anomalous phenomena. But make no mistake, there could be very real negative health effects for people who come in contact with these phenomena. Brain scans such as this show very real neurological damage and degradation, while some get upgrades. I know this is shocking to hear for the first time, but it is very real. These gentlemen are understandably reserved with this information, but as an experiencer myself, and hearing what my viewers have gone through, I feel the need to raise public awareness of this to let people know that they're not nuts and that it is being actively studied. So stay tuned. We'll be talking about this more in coming videos.